So there's several things that I wanted to do today with you. One is to go over the decorations, the first two decorations that we're going to be learning. The second is to go over writing an introduction and conclusion, an interesting introduction and conclusion, which if you've done IEW before, it's pretty similar to the same kind of thing you did in level 1. And then the third thing is I want to look at everybody's work and just see where you are, make sure you're on the right track. Oh, stop it, you baby. All right. Tell me how many dress-ups you have to put in a paper. Hmm?
One in each paragraph?
Yes, one of each kind of dress-up in every paragraph. So up till now we've had 6 dress-ups per paragraph. I've dropped that to 5 because, have you noticed, did I tell y'all that on the checklist? The because clause is now combined with the www.asia dress-up. So really, yes, that's different than level 1. Just like when we first learned sentence types, I combined this because with the www.asia for a sentence type. Now, I don't think I mentioned this to y'all, but you might have seen it on the checklist. So now, just 5 dress-ups because the because clause is combined with the www.asia. So if you've done extra because clause, that's fine, but you don't have to. So now just a total of 5. Tell me what the dress-ups are.
Alive.
Adjective, verb, proverb.
And
WWAsia.
dot because, actually, and now it's dot wub. Let's look at the checklist. Who knows what the wub is? www.asia.wub.
Whereas unless because.
Whereas, unless, because. So any of those will do now for your www.asia dress up. Okay? Okay, so now we don't need to look at that, but it will say that on the checklist. All right, so now we have to have a total of 5 dress-ups underlined in every paragraph. And what about sentence types? Some people call them sentence openers. In fact, Andrew Pudewa, the creator of IEW, called it sentence openers. But I, in my vast wisdom, have changed that to sentence types because everybody knows that homeschool moms like to do things their own way, right? And way back when I first started teaching this, people would get really confused because all of the sentence types started with a certain kind of word for opener, except for the number 6, which was a very short sentence. And that would cause this tremendous amount of confusion. So I decided to call, instead of calling them sentence openers, I decided to call them sentence types. So sometimes I forget and I still call them openers. So if I say sentence openers or sentence types, they mean the same thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so how many sentence types are there?
6.
6. Yes, definitely 6. Okay, tell me what they are. That's the number 1.
Subject.
Okay, number 2.
Prepositional.
Number 3.
Alive.
Yes. Number 4, my personal favorite.
ING.
Right. Yes. And why do I love that one so much?
It's really hard.
Well, it is really hard until suddenly one day you'll go, oh, and then it won't be hard anymore. But what's so great about a number 4? Does anybody know? You've had me before as a teacher, you should know this. Because a lot of people do these wrong if they've never been taught how to do them correctly. And when you do them and you do them correctly, you will appear brilliant to your instructors. Okay? They sound so sophisticated in your writing. It really does a lot for your writing. And later on this year, we're going to learn to do invisible number 4s. And those are really fun. Okay. Okay, so number 4 is the ing ed. Number 5 is
Number 6.
what's number 6?
Very short sentence.
Number 6 is a very short sentence. And what's number 5?
Major clause.
Yes, and now you can also add the wub, to the end of that, www.asia.wub. Okay, so how many sentence types do you have to have in a paper? In a paper.
If it's a 5-paragraph paper, then 30.
Oh. Yeah, so you have to have them, that was kind of a trick question, right? No matter how long your paper is, you have to have one of each kind in every paragraph, right? Okay, all right. So what makes decorations so wonderful? If you've done decorations before, you know the answer to this. Who raised their hand saying they've done decorations? Was it you, Benjamin?
Mhm.
What's so great about decorations?
Isn't it one per paper?
One of each kind per paper. Yeah, not per paragraph, because that would get really annoying if you had one of each kind of every decoration in every paragraph. So what you want to go for is a different kind of decoration in every paragraph. And eventually there will be 6 decorations in all the papers we do in this class, except for personal essays, which you have an option about. All the papers we do in this class will be 5-paragraph essays. So eventually we'll have 6 decorations, so you'll have a different kind in each, but only one. Okay? So today we're going to learn 2 of those. I really like decorations. I think they're a lot of fun. And the first 2 are pretty easy. Well, yes. Look at page 78. Okay. All right. The first decoration, we're going to talk about the first 2 today. And so when you bring your paper back next time, somewhere in a paragraph, I expect to find a question, and somewhere in a different paragraph, I expect to find 3 SSS. Okay. So the first one is a question. Questions are really good stylistic devices because they get your reader curious and questioning. So lots of times you can start a paper, the very first sentence of an introduction with a question. That's a really good way to start a paper. Now, so what if you started out a paper about gun control with a sentence, should handguns be controlled, licensed, registered, or even banned? Now, depending on which side of the issue you come down on, that's going to immediately grab your attention, right? And you may go, no way! Or you may go, absolutely, right? But anyway, it pulls you in and gets you engaged in the paper. Or, if you were writing a composition about the importance of knowing a second language, you might begin with the following question. In many countries, students are required to learn English as they study their native language. In addition, most of the world recognizes English as a primary international language. Given these facts, why do so many Americans still seek to learn a foreign language? Now, I want you to notice something about both of these questions. They are real questions that the author, I'm assuming, will go on to answer in their paper. These are not filler. They're not just rhetorical questions that no answer is expected for, okay? The first time I realized that people might actually write that kind of a question was maybe the second year I was teaching IEW for a class, and this student was writing a review on one of the Jurassic Park movies. Any of y'all ever seen any of those? Okay, I think it was the second one. And apparently there was something in there about, you know, this group of people having to band together to defeat the dinosaurs. And he went through this dramatic presentation about the story structure of the movie and all that. And toward the end, they were all working together, and this was his question that he marked as a decoration. Isn't teamwork wonderful? I will say that to this day, that is the lamest question I've ever received as a marked decoration. I suppose that would qualify as a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question that people just use as a argumentative device to sort of promote their point of view. That's not what I'm talking about when I ask for a question, okay? This is also not a question. Oh, really? Or anything like that. So When I say to use a question, I want a real question that really needs to be answered, okay? All right, let's look at some examples. If you turn to some of the essays that we have in the research essay section, look at page 141. Okay. This was Jonathan's essay about Samuel Colt, the inventor of the, who knows this? Colt revolver. Okay? So down the third paragraph, this is how you mark declarations. You mark them by putting them in italics. No underlines, no bolds, just italics, okay? Anything you see in these paragraphs would be italics. Okay, so we have a real question in the third paragraph down here. Is realizing how awkward it would be to hold single-handedly, he quickly threw it away. How could he simplify it? All right, that is really part of the whole designing of the Colt revolver. All right, so that's not a filler kind of question. If you ever see me write the word filler on any of your writings, it means it is totally unnecessary for the paper. Okay, it means that if you took it out, it totally would not be missed. Okay, and so we don't want any kind of questions like that. If you turn over to, oh, I guess I don't have the declarations marked in this one. Turn over to page 146. This was an essay about the Bermuda Triangle. Oh, did you get your books in the mail, Anna?
Yes,
Oh.
it
Okay, good. So the second paragraph right there at the beginning of the second paragraph. So why does the Bermuda Triangle continue to draw all this attention today? So this is actually a paragraph about why the Bermuda Triangle is always so interesting to people, okay? We don't have any marked ones in that page, the next page. Okay, page 148. This is an essay about Gandhi. And in the third paragraph down, you'll see a question marked with italics. Just sort of leading up to it. Let's see. After he was ejected from his first-class train compartment and beaten because he refused to give up his stagecoach seat, he made the decision to relentlessly fight for the rights of Indians in South Africa. Along with his legal career, this decision changed his life. Did he just care for Indians? No. He showed concern even for his enemies. Okay, so there's a real question there with a real answer to it. And if you turn over one more page to page 150, you'll see Sarah Carter's essay about Jane Austen. Any Jane Austen lovers in here? Pride and Prejudice? Yay! We do! Okay, so here's, questions are really a good way to start an essay. You don't have to do it, but you can. Who was this unforgettable woman who was later to be extensively acknowledged as England's first influential female writer? Great way to start an essay. Now, I don't approve of sticking quotes floating out in midair alone by themselves the way she did on this one. Okay? So don't imitate that. I need to go back and take that out of there. Actually, Sarah is an extremely accomplished writer who's getting ready to graduate with an English degree and go on to work on a master's degree. So, okay. So that's good examples of questions as declarations. Now let's look back again to the second one. Those are pretty easy. I don't really think anybody will have trouble coming up with some kind of a legitimate question that you can ask. Now number 2 on page 78, this is one of my very most favorite declarations. The 3 SSS, 3 short staccato sentences. And the way this works is, okay, first of all, tell me how many words you can have in order for it to qualify as a number 6 very short sentence.
2 to 5.
Ta-da! 2 to 5. Okay. Sometimes people get confused because it's because of the number 6, and then they kind of forget and think they can have 6 words. That was poor planning. I'll have to say, poor planning on the part of the creator. Don't say I said that. because it leads to mass confusion. But anyway, you can have 2 to 5 words. And so what you do in a 3, and what's the point of it? I've had students fight me in the past, long-winded students, over whether or not it was really appropriate or necessary to actually write a very short sentence. What's the point of a very short sentence? Why should we even include even one very short sentence, let alone 3? Who remembers?
Maybe
Anybody
because
know?
it like grabs the reader's attention.
Yeah, and why would that happen?
Because if it's a short sentence, usually it's easy to comprehend.
Well, that's true, but what starts happening when you start putting all
If you
this?
have a
other
whole lot of
style.
sentences and they're kind of just droning on, then all of a sudden you just chop your sentence in half, then they're going to wake up.
Yes, it changes the rhythm of it, right? Because after a while, putting in all these clauses and phrases, sentences start to get really long. So then all of a sudden, boom, you put in a very short sentence and it creates a little interest, right? So when you have 3 very short sentences in a row, it does the same thing. And what's really fun about these is that you can create patterns with them. So you can do 2 and 2 and 2, or 3 and 3 and 3 word sentences, or 4 and 4 and 4, or 5 and 5 and 5, or you can alternate the number of words. And the way it works best is if you alternate from longer sentences down to shorter. Okay? So if you have 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2,
3, 2,
Really?
1 isn't technically a.
no, it wouldn't be, and I changed my mind about doing that, but I forgot to take the 3, 2, 1 pattern out. Because really, you can't have really a sentence with just one word unless it's like sit.
Or boom.
Yeah, don't do boom. But if you had, say, sit, if you had a command with an understood you, that would be a possibility. Okay? But, okay, so here's an example. Killer bees invaded America. There's 4. Viciously they attacked. Humans suffered. Okay. Or here's a 3, 3, 3. Savage bees attacked. Violently they killed. Nobody was spared. Let's look at some examples of it if we turn back to page 142. Here's a 4, 4, 4 pattern in the last paragraph. Sam Colt became famous. His guns were popular. The world praised him. Okay. Now these can end up sounding really, I don't know, corny or clunky. It just takes a while working with them to get to where you can do these and they don't sound ridiculous. But you just have to start somewhere and try, okay? This is one of those style things that when you first learn it, you go, this sounds terrible. I would never do this if I wasn't made to. But once you practice it for a while, they can be very effective. Okay, turn your pages over to 145. Now, when I say it works best to go from the highest number of words in the sentence to the lowest, when you have a descending pattern, that's true. For some reason, that sounds better, but I absolutely am not going to count off if you have 3, 5, and 4. Okay? I'm not going to make you do that. I just want you to be aware of the fact that effectively is best if you could go from more words in the sentence to lower. Okay? So here's Matt's about the Bermuda Triangle. 306 men were lost. No remnants were found. The cause remains unknown. So he had a 444 there.
Is that allowed, counting your very short sentence as one of those sentences?
Yes. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes. With decorations, if you include any of your style stuff in the decoration, it counts for both. Unlike dress-ups versus sentence types, which can never count for both, right? With decorations, you can. So if you get an LY in at the beginning of a question decoration, so say you start a question with, I can't think of a sentence right now, but I'm sure that there is an LY word you could actually start a sentence question with. You can mark that as your number 3 sentence type, and you put it in italics for your decoration. Okay? Or any dress ups that actually fall in the sentence, any sentence types that fall in the sentence or sentences. Thank you. Who asked me that? That's a good question. Okay? So yes, one of those would count as your number 6, just like he marked it there. So once you've got that done, you don't have to worry about writing number 6. Turn over to page 149. Now, he did a 5-5-5 pattern on page 149. In 1949, Gandhi was assassinated. India mourned over his death. Gandhi had caused no harm. Okay? Okay, here's one. Nah, not quite. But look at this on 154. Last paragraph. Its appearance is beautiful. It is useful. Its temperament is loving. There she did a 4, 3, and a 4, and that's fine. It's not going to cause any kind of points to be subtracted or anything like that. Oh, here's a good one. Look on 158. Here's a descending pattern. First paragraph on 158. He cannot remember normal life. He is alone, isolated. He is trapped. This is a Robinson Crusoe book review. So you got 5, 4, and 3 in that one. Okay. So any questions about those? They're really kind of fun. You only have to do one in a paper. So sometimes you can find a longer sentence in your paragraph and break it up. Just be careful that you're not writing any fragments, okay? Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is how to write so you can go back and do those 2 decorations in any of the 5 paragraphs that you will have by the time you come back again, okay? Did anybody actually try to go ahead and include a decoration in one of their paragraphs that they wrote this past time that we can have for an example? Reagan!
Oh wait, I don't have my.
You don't have it on the computer or printed out there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else try one of them? No? Okay. Let me just make sure that there's nothing else here that. So let's look at page 31 and remind ourselves about the structure of an essay, which is uncannily like the structure of a report. Except an essay is, what is the difference again between an essay and a report? Who remembers? Anybody remember? We talked about this? I know you read about it in your
An
book.
essay has a thesis.
Yes, and what's a thesis?
It's like a point you're trying to argue.
An opinion.
Yes, your opinion in written form. Hopefully it's a point you're actually going to make an argument for. Okay? I have actually read essays where they had a point, but they never really tried to prove it, except they used, I would say, badgering and name-calling and stuff like that to try to prove their point. That's not, that doesn't count. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we've already written the body paragraphs. Oh, good, we're doing really well on our time. I want to have time to look over your stuff. We're going to write the introduction and the conclusion. And as we learned in level 1, the way we go about writing an introduction is first of all to catch the reader's attention, and this is where decorations can work really well. Okay? Then we're going to give some time, place, background, or historical information that is not included in the body, and narrow gradually to our 3 topics and then our thesis. So we're going to state the 3 topics, and the very last thing in the introduction is going to be your thesis statement. Okay, then when we get to the conclusion, we're just going to work backwards. We're going to restate our thesis in different words. We're going to restate the 3 topics in different words. We're going to tell what is most important or most significant and why. And then we're going to use 2 or 3 strong keywords from the last sentence of our introduction in the last sentence of our conclusion. And who remembers what that does for a paper when you do that?
Kind of ties it all back in.
It does. It ties everything together. And of course, even though it's going to be your opinion about what's the most important, you're never going to use words like I, me, or mine, right? Because what does it do when you insert yourself into a paper like that?
Change the title of the
Huh?
I mean, it changes the view. You have to do the entire thing, like I can't just have 1 sentence.
Well, that's true, and that's why it's okay for writing a personal essay, right? If it's an essay about us, but if it's not an essay about us, we don't want to do that because most readers really and truly do not care what you think, right? They hope that they're reading facts and they're getting smart because they're reading facts, and it's all true. So if all of a sudden you appear out of nowhere and you say something like,
I believe.
I believe.
Or trust me. That's my
Oh.
favorite one. When I find
Just see me turn into a monster. I think I actually did have somebody use that in a paper somewhere last year. Trust me, it's like, then you're really going to get people suspicious. You say, trust me.
They have to trust you in the first place.
Right,
to believe
right.
What you say.
Yes, people will basically, if you call attention to the fact that this is your opinion, they're immediately going to go, and why should I care what you think? Because people want to think that they're reading facts and getting smart, right? So when I read a National Geographic article one year about coffee, it had a beautiful picture of a coffee cup on the cover. And the title of the essay, that's what National Geographic is. It's full of essays about different subjects that are presented as totally factual documentaries. Okay? I love National Geographic, parts of it, but you always have to remember that anytime you're reading an essay, it's always going to be colored by the writer's worldview, okay? So, I happen to love coffee, and I very much enjoyed, and so does Reagan, I know that. Anybody else in here love coffee? Yes, coffee drinkers unite. And this was the thesis of the very wonderful essay. The discovery of coffee made the Industrial Revolution possible. Isn't that great?
I can believe that.
Because it allowed, and the coffee helped them stay awake far into the night, so that they were actually able to have shift work, and so industry exploded. That's a fascinating idea. The discovery of coffee made the Industrial Revolution possible. Being a coffee drinker, I love that. Guess what? That is what you call an opinion. Okay? The Industrial Revolution was made possible by a number of things, and that's the only thing I've ever read that threw coffee into the works. Okay? Widespread availability of, electrical power. I think at first it was steam power, so it must have been steam power at the time. And a lot of different discoveries that all kind of came along around the same time. But that person must have been a coffee lover also. So that was his opinion, and I enjoyed reading that. the thing was full of very factual information about coffee, where coffee came from, who first used it, how it became available to Europeans, how it is transported to market, how it is prepared for market. Fascinating. Lots of statistics, but the thesis was an opinion. Okay? And for all I know, he could be right. I mean, maybe all of those other inventions came along, but if it hadn't been for coffee, nothing would have come of it. I don't know. All right? But what the writer did not say was, I believe that coffee made the Industrial Revolution possible. Okay? All right. So you mustn't tell your reader that it's your opinion. Even though if they're halfway intelligent, they will suspect that some of it might just be your opinion, okay? That doesn't make it okay to make up facts either, like 5 billion cups of coffee are drunk in the world daily. I mean, you've got to actually find real facts. You're going to fit facts, okay? If they're not documented facts that can be verified, then they're called factoids, okay? Don't have factoids in your papers, okay? So, the thesis statement is going to be the last thing. And did we actually talk about writing a thesis statement last time? We didn't, did we?
We touched on it.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. Sometimes I get confused with what I've talked about between the different classes. Okay, so when we get down to the conclusion, we're going to restate our thesis in different words. We're going to restate our 3 topics, tell what is most important and most significant, which of course always is your opinion as well. Never use I, me, or mine. Okay, so let's talk about how we can start an introduction and conclusion. Look at page 29. These are still from last year, but will start to make more sense to you now that you're going to be learning declarations, because a lot of these actually are declarations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First 5 are declarations. Okay. So a good way to start an introduction would be with a question, like we just talked about. And then if you can, you don't have to do it this way, but if you can, when you get down to the very end of the paper, a really neat thing that you can do is to echo that opening sentence. Okay? 3 very short sentences, like we just talked about. An unusual quote. Everybody knows my favorite quote that I say not to use. Who knows? Who can remember it? Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. John F. Kennedy. Okay. That was a great quote when it was first spoken. What's the problem with that quote now? Totally. Okay? So when you find a quote, try to make it something that people aren't familiar with. Like, I never ever want to read another article about prayer that starts like this. Do you ever feel like when you pray, your prayers are not going anywhere, they're just bouncing off the ceiling? Again, great idea the first time it was said, which was probably 50 billion years ago. And ever since then, it's been overused. So don't use cliches, okay? You want to find a quote, find a really good quote that makes people go, wow, that is a cool quote, okay? Where can you find cool quotes to start papers with? Ta-da! Yes, you type in quotes about, so for instance, you could do quotes about hard work, quotes about success, quotes about quotes about failure, quotes about teenagers, quotes about, now help me.
Quotes on quotes.
Yes, quotes about quotes. Okay, so if you're going to use a quote, make sure it's an interesting quote. Okay? Not a quote that makes people want to go, not that one again. Or here's another one. That's one tiny step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Again, everybody was so inspired by that. And I was inspired by it too the first time I heard it. And maybe the first 5 or 10 times I heard it, I was inspired by it. But the next 20 million times I heard it, I was distinctly bored. Okay? Y'all know who said that?
Neil Armstrong.
Ta-da! Yes. See? Y'all weren't around when these quotes were said like I was, and you already know the quotes. If you can think of the quote off the top of your head, it's probably been used too much already. Find a different one. Like, this is a really good quote, and it's a good thing to know, but just don't ever use it in a paper. Those who refuse to learn from history are
Repeating it.
doomed to repeat it. Yes. Good thing to know. That's a life principle. Alright? Don't use it in a paper. Unless it's a paper that you're writing on the spur of the moment, like, one of those on-demand essays that you have to write for different things.
Or a paper about a quote.
Yes. Yes, that would be a good thing, okay? But if it's a paper you've actually got time to think about, try to find something that everybody hasn't already heard. Does that make sense? Okay. Assembly and metaphor, we're going to be talking about those later. That's one of our decorations. Dramatic opening and closing, same thing. Now, surprising, shocking, or bizarre fact. Those are always fun. Okay? Like, 5 billion people die from the sting of a sea wasp every year. Of course, that wouldn't be true. But that would be a kind of a gruesome fact if that was true. Okay? This is what they had for the, starting with a fact in the original book that I got. That's when I went back and made qualifiers, surprising, shocking, or bizarre. This was the fact that somebody used to start a paper. I was 10 years old when I first visited our nation's capital. I'm sorry, that's just not very interesting. Okay? Make it something like, the Statue of Liberty weighs, what's a reasonable amount of weight for the Statue of Liberty?
7 billion tons.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Alright? Something like that. Yeah, so make sure it's an interesting fact, not just some boring fact that you then mark as a decoration.
Are this requirements for?
Well, these are just great ways to start with an introduction, just an attention-getting thing. Another thing is famous, exotic, glamorous, notorious people, places, things, or ideas. Okay. Somebody famous that you could use, that people are interested in.
Ben Carson.
John F. Kennedy.
Yeah. Right now, Ben
Writing a
Carson's
paper
kind of
about his
like, one of the real intriguing people out there. Okay. Something exotic that you could use in introduction. Attention getter.
Easter Island.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Something glamorous.
My face.
What?
I said my face.
I was waiting for someone to do that. The Palace of Versailles. In
Ooh,
Paris.
yeah. Okay, or
First to
Well,
buy.
his face. I mean, that's good.
Yeah. First to buy.
It's probably the best.
yeah.
Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal. Oh,
Oh,
Big Ben.
yeah.
Did I keep going?
Something notorious.
Notorious.
Colby.
The Holocaust.
Yes, the Holocaust.
Can argue with facts
The
like that.
person, the most notorious person.
Al Capone.
Oh yes, he's definitely notorious.
Adolf.
He's misunderstood.
Yes, that's who I was thinking of. I have this endless fascination with Napoleon.
Vladimir Putin.
Napoleon is kind of glamorous and notorious,
Yeah,
isn't
no,
he?
Napoleon is like my role model. I mean, he comes out of nowhere, conquers all of Europe, gets exiled, comes back, gets his army back with like, hey guys, what's up? on his side, conquers Europe again. I'm just like,
how did he do that?
and then ends his days on a private island. I'm like, what?
But this time, a private island quite a bit further away than the first one.
It was honestly just kind of random. It was like everyone's chugging along, then Napoleon Bonaparte comes, destroys everything, and leaves.
I know. And you look at him and you think, same with Hitler. You look at him and you go, what was it about this person that made people want to follow them? Because it sure wasn't their appearance. They were very
Short.
Leader.
nondescript as far as their appearance goes.
What was the fact that your
It could have been
not
like-
your sister?
Hitler's unibrow.
No, Napoleon
mustache.
Bonaparte. I don't remember which rulers, but it was really weird because Napoleon Bonaparte is taller than Hitler, and a few other everyone calls him short and everything, but he's actually taller than a whole bunch of other people, which I thought was interesting.
That is very interesting. In fact, that would be an interesting fact if you could tie it in somehow. Okay. All right, another good way to do it is look on page 30. This is another good way of starting an introduction. This is just the start of the introduction, okay? We're not even talking about the whole introduction here, right? Who has a pastor in here in their church that likes to start their sermons with a little story? I love that.
Every single Sunday.
What does it do?
Gets you intrigued, kind of like.
It does. It does. My favorite pastor story to start a sermon was one I actually missed. I just heard about it later, and even just hearing about it intrigued me. And that was our pastor that helped to start our church that we're in now. And he told about a family whose father had gone off in the Depression to look for work. He left the mother and several children, and the smallest child was a 2-year-old little boy. And Christmas was coming. Mother didn't know how they were going to do anything about Christmas dinner. Never mind presents, And then they got a letter from the father, and he had found work, and he'd sent some cash home. And so she laid it on the table in the family area and walked back into the room to find the 2-year-old flinging the last of the bills into the fireplace,
Feel the fire.
cackling. And she threw herself on her bed and cried and didn't know what she was going to do. And then apparently he went on and did a sermon about, I think it was New Year's, maybe a Christmas Eve sermon, about how, where God is in times of trouble. And then he finished his sermon by telling the rest of the story. Later on that day, on Christmas Eve, there was a knock at the door, and there was some people from the church with a huge box full of food, clothes, a special something for each of the children, and God supplied their needs. And then he finished it off with the last little interesting bit, which was that he was the 2-year-old that threw the money into the fire.
That is interesting.
I know!
Cackling.
Yeah.
Tiny.
And he grew up to be a very responsible person. But even at age 80 or so, when he was our pastor, he was still just so much fun and wise and all that kind of stuff. So that's one neat thing you can do. You start out with a little story, you do the rest of your introduction, you do your body paragraphs, you do the beginning of your conclusion, and then at the very end, you can finish off your little story. Instead of telling the whole little story in the introduction, right? People just like that, They just like it. They can't. What I really hate is when they do that at the beginning of the sermon, and then they get to the end, and then they forget to finish off the story. So as soon as the church service is over, you run and you get in line, and then you go up to the pastor and you go, and then what happened? What? You didn't tell what happened to little Johnny.
So you'll just have to come back next week. Power, unlimited power.
So make sure that you finish off your little story, okay? This is one I really liked. And this student, the last one here, all of these were from student papers that I had from different people. This last one was about a paper about the invasion of Normandy. And this student wrote to me and asked for a special dispensation to use the word you in his introduction. And I said, why do you need to do that? And he explained to me what he had written, and I said, okay. I said, only in that little part. You can't do it in the rest of the paper. So look at David's. This is really neat. June
Which page?
6th, 1944. It's on page 30. June 6th, 1944. The sounds of intense roaring gunfire arouse you from your daydreaming and bring you back to the present. You are part of the regiment assigned to assault Omaha Beach on D-Day. You have been trained for months, so you would be ready for this moment. As you near land, you wonder if all the training in the world could save you from this godforsaken beach. Your boat reaches the beach, and the ramp falls open. You tumble out of the water as rounds from German machine guns rip past you. The noise is deafening. The Germans throwing everything they have at you. The ground shakes. The guns roar. You run for your life. That's a 3SSS, by the way. The man in front of you crumples to the ground after taking a direct hit from a machine gun round. Stumbling past him, you hear an odd whistling sound, and everything goes black. Why do you think he really wanted to use you in that little attention-getting
Because if he
section?
used I, then he would have to explain why he was dead.
Good. And he said, I want my reader to,
Put him in the mindset.
Feel pain.
yes, to try to experience, everything is just as it was then, except
No!
over there. We used to have to watch this series of movies in history class growing up, and actually we really liked them. But they always ended up with everything is just as it was then, except you are there. Okay, and so then he had the rest of his introduction, introducing the whole idea of the invasion of Normandy and his 3 topics and his thesis, then his body paragraphs, then his conclusion, and the very last sentence of his conclusion was, they reached Berlin. Okay, it was very effective. Okay, so that's what we want to do with our introduction and conclusion. Now let me pass out those copies again of that essay that my student wrote, and I will take these up whenever I. Okay, all right. So this is how Rosalind did it. She starts out with, I would say this is attention-getting. What about India? Which one of those kinds of openings do you think India would fall under?
Exotic, maybe?
Yes.
Poverty.
That's true.
Yes.
India, people think of India and it's kind of like, so just by saying the word India in your opening sentence, you sort of get a exotic sort of, I hate that word feel as a noun, an exotic effect, okay? I know people do that, but it really bugs me. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Feel is a verb. I don't like it used as a noun. That's just one of my pet peeves, so if you're smart, you'll avoid that in this class.
I know one song you must hate.
What?
I've got a feeling.
Well, feeling is
that's-
different. I wouldn't mind it so much if they used the word feeling,
Mhm.
because that's an actual noun, It's the word feel that really bugs me as a noun. Okay. Passing by a school in India, one may see a banner covered with dozens of faces. Next, now this is all the background information that is not included in the rest of the body paragraphs, okay? Next to these children's pictures are numbers which represent their class rankings. These simple statistics can bring a sense of pride to a student or great embarrassment. Now, under normal circumstances, if you started out reading a paragraph that opened up talking about India, what might you assume?
Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal, yeah, even more exotic. You would think, oh, this is a paper about India. But it's not, okay? She's not going to bore you by starting out by going, teenagers should do hard things. Okay? You don't want to just spill all the beans right to start with, okay? These simple statistics can bring a sense of pride to a student or great embarrassment. If children rank well in school, they will have considerably more opportunities for higher education and a rewarding career. Children may have to change schools or drop out if they do not meet the high expectations. In India, the teen years are used to form a strong foundation to set a person up for success. Okay, that's where she first sort of starts to narrow down to her idea. However, this is not the case in the United States. That's where she gives you the first clue that she's going to be talking about something about the United States, not India. American teens wish to have a carefree and fun-filled life. Teens view schooling as an interruption to their recess from responsibility. It's no wonder that children in countries like India, China, and Japan are excelling far past children from the western half of the world. By looking at successful people in the past, we know it's not always been this way. American youth need to recover the teenage years as the launching pad of life instead of wasting this precious time. How can this be done? Now here's your topics. Completing difficult tasks is one strategy that will lead to success. That's to do hard things. Also, teens must realize the amount of hard work and dedication that goes into becoming a master at something and start working towards it. That is what?
1,000 hours. No, 10,000.
10,000, yeah. Not 100,000 the way it looks in my picture. Surprisingly, there are still a few young people who have decided to defy common expectations and accomplish what many adults have not done. She could have said the name of her person if she had wanted to, but, you know, she chose not to. But she still kind of gave you an idea that she's going to be talking about somebody. And here's her thesis. Successful teens will use these somewhat responsibility-free years to commence a future of growth and achievement. Now, I've given y'all a thesis statement. You don't have to say it just like I did. Have y'all read that? The thesis statement that's on your book. What's that called?
Learning for success.
Yes. I don't know if I took that with me. Oh yeah, okay. Here it is. Okay. Your thesis statement, unless you want to put it in your own words, which will be fine. Your thesis statement is, young adults should use their teen years to begin their journey to success, or some variation of that, okay? I'm being a nice teacher this time. I'm giving you an opinion that you're supporting in the rest of your paper, okay? And it's on this form right here, okay? Okay, let's see. Now, let's look at our conclusion really quick. Starts on the last page. She has just finished talking about her example person. Eva Vertes is an outstanding example for young people today, striving like Eva to use their teenage years effectively. Youth will be rewarded with further development and success. Okay, so she gave her thesis statement just right there. Striving like Eva. She tied her thesis statement in with her example person, which was very subtle and sophisticated. Striving like Eva to use their teenage years effectively, youth will be rewarded with further development and success. Achieving victory will be challenging. Difficult obstacles must be overcome when they inevitably arise. That's to do hard things. Thousands of hours of practice will be required. That's 10,000 hours. In addition to practicing, now she's giving just a little finish to the whole subject she's just been talking about. In addition to practicing, people have to go way above and beyond our culture's dangerously low expectations. And now she reminds us about what she talked about in her introduction. Although the achievement gap between the United States and Eastern nations is vast, teenagers can slowly begin to close it by relentlessly working toward success. Most importantly, here's her most importantly, if American adolescents use these valuable years productively, society can look forward to a new era of skillful and motivated workers who can and will achieve more than has ever been imagined. So very good job of taking care of all of those little particulars. And this is, I just think it's a wonderful way to write an introduction and conclusion, because often those are just the most boring parts of the paper. And introductions should never be boring, because who wants to be bored right out of the box, right? You know, and then also you don't want to waste your opportunity to remind your reader of what is really important about the subject and why you took the trouble to write the paper in the first place. Okay? So, all right, so let me take those back up again. So what I'd like to do now is look at what you have done so far, so I can see where you're going. And I found a really neat thing on Facebook today, and I posted it on my Facebook so I wouldn't forget. But does anybody know? Oh, let me see what his name was. Notice how she used an example of India. You could also use an example person that wasn't in the paper for your introduction. Like if you didn't use the Beatles, for example, and you liked the Beatles and you wanted to put them as your background information in the introduction, you could do that. Or if you didn't write about Secret Service agents in one of your body paragraphs, you might like to write about Secret Service agents in your introduction. Okay. Audie Murphy. Anybody ever seen him? He was an actor, but he was also a decorated combat veteran. Very decorated. But listen how she ends this. It's real interesting history. And I've read this before, but I thought this was pretty well written. At the end of it, she says, Murphy was killed in a private plane crash on May 28, 1971. After his death, he was buried with full military honors in Arlington Cemetery. Finally, just 2 years ago, his home state of Texas posthumously awarded him his greatest military honor, the Texas Legislative Medal of Honor. The poor son of sharecroppers was not supposed to be a hero, and yet he was. Determination, perseverance, exceeding expectations. How American. And I posted it on my Facebook page with, do hard things, y'all. Because that's what that sounds like. Determination, perseverance, exceeding expectations. So if anybody's interested in Audie Murphy, he would make a great background information. I mean, look at that. Look at his medals. A son of poor sharecroppers. That's pretty astounding to me. Isn't that amazing? So, yeah, you start noticing these do hard things, people, once you get this in your head. So, okay, so I'm just going to go around really quick and look at everybody's work. So, put it out on the.
Malachi's.
Oh, okay. All right.
And all of his stuff is stapled together.
Don't let your body paragraphs be longer than 300 words. Okay? But 300 words is a gracious plenty. So,
Even with insect citations.
Yeah, do it.
why? Do you know how many words yours are?
Yeah, mine was like 900, like exactly. So each one's about exactly 300. They're each like right on 300. And Mrs. Scrimble, you don't need the insect citation for every sentence, do you? Like,
No. So,
Even-
for instance, if all of the information is coming out of one article,
Like if you didn't find this somewhere else, if it's like originally stated in that article,
right?
then you have to cite it, correct?
Well, you do for direct quotations, but say most of your paragraph about 10,000 hours was from that talent or hard work article. So when you cited at the beginning about the whole 10,000 hour principle, you put Gladwell and then I guess a page number, I can't remember exactly. And then toward the end of that section, you would put it again so that you'd know that all of that came out of his article. But then suppose you had something by Tina Blue in that article, in that particular paragraph. And then you went back and cited Gladwell again. You put Blue, whatever. Maybe you just put Blue and I think you just put Blue actually because these are not page numbers out on the
That'd
internet.
be nice to know. Can get rid of
And
it.
then you come down to, you cite something else by Gladwell, then you put Gladwell again.
Okay, so it's just you cite it until you have to cite something else from someone else,
okay. So
unless it's a
I-
direct quotation.
Yes, and if it's a direct
Okay.
quotation, make sure that you
Alright,
cite
I'll
that.
change
And
that.
like in your
bit,
in-text citations, you don't need to put like I forgot. You don't need to put like page numbers. Do you just
Yes, because all of these are off of the internet. You put page numbers when it's like a magazine or a book, because there aren't normally page numbers for an article, on an internet article. It's usually just one long thing. you know, so, that's a little bit different. I tried to have lots of different examples of citations, but there's so many possibilities for citations that really, even I have to go look them up every single time to make sure I cite things correctly. And it's not fair because I don't even like MLA. I like APA. I like to do footnotes. To me, footnotes are way more helpful than having those constant parentheses in the middle of a paper, which is so annoying. And I like to be able to look down at the bottom if I want to see where it's from. And if I don't want to see where it's from, then I don't have to. You know? And if I do want to see where it's from, I hate having to flip all the way
To the work side.
to
of
the
paper.
end
Yeah.
to look it up, you know? I just never have liked MLA, so I'm not having y'all do it because it's my favorite. I'm having you to do it because when you get to where you're going, you're gonna be expected to know how to do it. That is the only reason, okay? Okay, now I'm not actually reading these, I'm just taking a look. So I think since Saya, there's only one article by him. I might be mistaken, but I don't think you have to put the article title, because there's only one article by Saya. Okay, I need to go back and look at that again. Again, I have to look this stuff up every single time, so. I think with Harris, Jalen Bledsoe, you could probably put Jalen Bledsoe age 15.
And then just dot or something
Yeah, but
Okay.
remind me
to look that
to
up.
check that for you, and I'll send you the page where I find it.
Okay, thank you.
Purdue OWL, it's an online writing lab, is a great source for all of this kind of stuff. So, oh, and your works cited page looks real good. Okay, that looks good. Find it. Page 42. Citing sources without an author. Sometimes you won't find an author on internet sources. So notice how you just have the name of the article or the name of the book, spies, and then what page it appears on. Or the name of an article and then the page it appears on. You don't even put, which really bugs me, I think this looks so wrong, but you don't even put a comma between the title of the book or article and the page numbers. And you don't even put P to mean page. I think the point of it is to use as little distraction as possible, but I mean, the minute you stick parentheses in it, it's a distraction as far as I'm concerned, okay? Also, somehow I ended up without putting in there citing an author online.
Citing online sources.
Yeah, but what I want is, oh, okay, here we go. Page 43, citing online sources. Notice how you just have the Williams 2. Now, if there's no page number, guess what you put there? Williams. That's it.
Okay, so I don't have to list the article if
You
it's only
don't.
one.
Now, what's different about the ones, the Do Hard Things articles
Is that there's multiple.
there's multiple articles.
Okay.
So you put the name of the article for that particular one. If there's more than one source with the same author, then you have to put the title and not the author's name,
Okay,
okay?
makes a lot more sense.
Right. So that way, at least even though it's so annoying to have parentheses in the paper, at least they're not like taking up a whole line.
So what do I do for like an online source that doesn't have an author?
Online source with no author, just the title of the article.
Like, do I put the website where I found it?
No, only on your works cited
On that
page.
website page? Okay.
Yes.
So I did that. So
See,
I'm gonna
what the whole point of the in-text citations is if they see, tell me the name of your article that has no author.
well, they had authors, but they were by, like, then they had specific authors. There was like a news company, let's say.
Okay.
So, it was
So,
like by seeing
Put the name of the article and then that should be able to easily direct your reader, if they so desire, to look at the works cited page and find the rest of the information if they want to use your source.
Okay, so would I put like CNN News or something, or no?
Is there an article name?
Like I found like one out, like
I think there's a electronically published.
If there's
Tag.
an article name, you put the article name. If there's no article name, then you go to the next thing, which would be CNN News or whatever it is. Because people will look for that when they go to your works cited page, and then they'll see the day, the web address, stuff like that. Okay? All right. Did I get yours?
Over.
Oh, y'all, rats. Okay, so if I've already looked, let me see. Oh, okay. Did my literature? Looks good. Yeah, so go back, okay, good, you got your, see, so he did Harris and 5 kinds of hard things. He put the name of the article there, so, you know, the particular one.
Yeah, I was able to do that for the ones that had an author, but I didn't do
Right.
it for like.
Now Harris is the one that did 10,000 hours, so go back and look at that again. There's no Harris article unless there's something different that I didn't have. Okay, so all of these are gonna relate to something that's on your works cited page. I do wanna see 10,000 hours principle and do hard things principle in those topic sentences, okay? So if you don't have those words, so like, always do hard things, I don't see.
Do you have to have principal for 10,000 hours? Because I have 10,000 hours, but I don't have principal next to it.
Well, we are talking about a principle here, so
Okay.
so to be completely understandable, go back and put the word principle, you too, Benjamin, okay?
In the topic sentences.
Okay, see, just like you did here, do it with attention, yeah. So your reader knows exactly what it is you're trying to get them to do.
Our Wi-Fi was out, so I couldn't print.
Oh, that's right, you're not doing that.
But I
Go
emailed
home and email it to me, so I can just help you down the right track. And I think, I may be wrong, but I think you do not need the name Harris. You might just need the name of the article, but I need to check that, that's for sure. And probably just also with Gladwell, all you need is Gladwell, because you don't, we know by looking at there's only one article by Gladwell. Okay.
And then like if you turn on my other page, I'll start showing you. So all I would put would be just like where I found it or the name of the article.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the name of the article?
Yeah. Okay. Page more time.
Okay. All right.
Let's just kind of like a summarized version of it because you know it's like really
Okay,
but
so does anybody have any burning questions they need to ask me that came up while they were working on this? Everything looks really good. I didn't read through, but everything looks really good. If you are having any kind of problems doing this next part, what do you need to do? Ta-da! That's right. Okay. Okay, well, y'all, great job, and, does everybody have their research essay